Hello again, Nerd Squad! Grab a box of tissues because this list might make you cry. Hopefully it doesn't make me cry though, as I share it with you. I'm a big crybaby when it comes to emotional moments and stories. I'm that girl that reads a sad comic and cries on the bus. So if you also like to get emotionally vulnerable like myself, you are going to enjoy this list today. Today we will be counting down the top 10 saddest superhero moments. That is to say, moments that have involved superheroes that have made us super sad, or other comic book characters super sad sometimes. But most likely, both of these things. Some of them are sad in an uplifting way though, having happy endings, so don't fret. There is always a silver lining. What are some of the things that make you sad in stories? What is your favorite darkest or saddest comic book series? Let us know in the comments below. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Death of Jason Todd. One of the saddest moments in Batman's history for sure. While Jason Todd would later return, this moment still shook Batman to the core, and readers to the core. Even if you were one of the people who voted for him to die, or were annoyed by Todd as Robin, this moment was dark, raw, and shocking for everyone. During the series Death in the Family, the writers actually let the audience vote and decide whether or not Jason would make it. Unfortunately for Batman, they decided to let Jason die. The fact that Jason and his biological mother Sheila look like they're almost going to make it, coupled with Batman's reaction, makes the story even more heart-wrenching. As Bruce searches the ruins of the explosion, his thoughts help to also paint a mournful picture surrounding Jason's death. This moment would also carry on and change Batman forever. It would also be a sad and shocking moment that would inspire writers to kill off other Robins. Yee. Number 9. Kitty Pryde in a Bullet. Joss Whedon's run on X-Men was something else. One of the examples of the drama he was able to stir up involved Kitty Pryde. After the Earth is threatened by a giant missile, Kitty phases into it when the team can't seem to access its trajectory path. What she discovers is that it is empty, a shell, not a missile, but a bullet. Unfortunately, the type of metal that the bullet is comprised of makes her sick, and causes her to become bonded with it, meaning she cannot phase outside of the shell. With no way to save herself and no way to stop the bullet, she is forced to do the unthinkable, and phase the giant bullet through Earth. She somehow manages to do this and is presumed dead. The sacrifice she makes, combined with seeing her struggle to produce the strength to do this feat, is amazing and sad. Kitty Pryde was a loved character at the time, and still is, so seeing this happen to her is really tragic. Don't worry though, she wasn't fully done yet. It's still a comic, so she managed to return to the X-Men a few years later. Whew. Number 8. Iron Man dies. Iron Man's death scene is definitely one we will never forget. Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man cool again. He breathed life into a character that was never fully appreciated until his portrayal uplifted Tony Stark. Seeing Tony die on screen in the MCU represented for many the end of an era, and literally marked the closing of Phase 1 for the MCU. First, we have pretty much the reverse of the moment that we saw in Infinity War. Tom Holland's Spider-Man comes over, letting Iron Man frantically know that they won the day as Tony is fading. Just like when Tony came over to him when he was dying in Infinity War. Stark's death scene was made even more sad by knowing what he was leaving behind. He and Pepper had both survived the snap and had a daughter. One of the saddest moments in the entire Phase 1 of the franchise was when Pepper comes over to a dying Tony and manages to keep it together, reassuring him by saying, "We're gonna be okay, you can rest now," only letting herself cry after he has passed. The funeral scene was also remarkably sad, with his daughter being promised burgers by Happy and seeming too young to really fully understand the levity of even what happened. Rest in peace, Tony. We love you 3000. Number 7. Superman vs. Depression. In the All-Star Superman series, we see Superman accomplish a number of amazing feats, but one of the most heartfelt is this moment, when he saves a girl from committing suicide in issue 10. He reassures her she was not forgotten as she stands poised on the edge of a rooftop, ready to jump because she was having a breakdown and could not get in touch with her therapist. His words of comfort are that she is stronger than she thinks, and that she can endure this. She has the strength. Depression can sometimes feel like it is more insurmountable than any problem or supervillain. So being there to comfort and support someone in the way of believing in their strength is smart, and it just feels really meaningful. The panels are also beautifully drawn, and the incident ends with the image of the girl giving Superman a hug. as she sobs. Truly moving. Number 6. Gwen Stacy dies. At this point you might be thinking, so much death. Losing people is sad and hard, sure, but is this whole list going to revolve around the loss? Losing people is sad and hard, sure, but is this whole list going to resolve around loss? When so many characters have the possibility of just being resurrected around the corner? While you may have a point about resurrection, that is never a full-on guarantee. And a lot of the sadness in these deaths revolve around the circumstances of them. Jason Todd had just rejoined Batman and was a hero till the end. Iron Man had just won the day. And with Gwen, we thought she was safe. The original death of Gwen happens in the Amazing Spider-Man series when she is tossed to her doom by Green Goblin. But our web-slinging hero manages to react fast enough, shooting his web out to save her just before she hits the ground. Unfortunately, there is a sound effect that accompanies this moment that lets us know that Spider-Man's life-saving action has actually resulted in the snapping of Gwen's neck. While it has been debated as to whether or not Gwen was already dead before she fell, the fact remains that these are some sad panels. At this point, we know she is dead, but Spider-Man continues to boast that he has won the day and saved Gwen. Well, she's there, dangling, dead. Number 5. Barry Allen remembers Wally West. Wally West is trapped in the Speed Force and about to die when he goes to visit his Uncle Barry one last time to say goodbye. Whether you want to blame the loss of memories on Dr. Manhattan or the Flash, regardless, Barry struggles to remember Wally. But Wally tells him that is okay, and that he will die with love in his heart when he thinks of his Uncle Barry and all he has done for him and meant to him. It is a truly touching and sad moment. As he begins to fully fade away, Barry suddenly appears to remember his nephew and manages to reach out and save him. Many memories flood back to him about his wife's nephew and the two hug. Barry in tears reassures Wally he could never forget him, and so Kid Flash is reunited with his uncle, and also once again saved by him. Duh. Number 4. Anytime Groot dies. Groot is maybe one of my favorite characters ever. He belongs to an alien race called the Flora Colossi, and his integration in the MCU's Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as the strange and iconic voice work of Vin Diesel who portrays him, made him exceedingly popular in the world of Marvel. We see this character die twice on screen in the MCU, and both incidents of his death break my heart. One is when he chooses to sacrifice himself at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and the second is when he becomes one of the victims to Thanos' snap. What really sells this as a sad moment is Rocket, who is also amazingly voiced in the MCU by Bradley Cooper. Rocket's reactions to Groot's death make it even more heartbreaking, and each time you already feel pretty awful about it because Groot is such a sweet character, even when he's capable of murdering so many people. Not sure what his official MCU death count is, but after just the first Guardians film, it's gotta be pretty high. When he dies the second time, he says what he always says, "I am Groot." But obviously every time he says this phrase, we know from other characters' interactions with him that what he means is something other than what we hear, that he is essentially just speaking another language. His last words in Avengers Infinity War were revealed by James Gunn to have meant Dad. In the script, it literally just reads Dad, meaning teenage Groot calls out to Rocket like a scared child, revealing he looks to him as a father while he dies. Oh, so sad. Number 3. Batman gets a letter from his parents. After returning from an alternate timeline in the events of Flashpoint, Barry Allen comes with a sort of gift for Bruce. In the timeline he was in, the Batman was actually Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne. And in that timeline, his mother, Martha, becomes the Joker after Bruce, their son, is the one who gets murdered. Barry ends up getting Thomas to help him defeat Professor Zoom and restore the timeline. Before he leaves, Thomas gives him a letter addressed to Bruce, of the timeline that we know. When Barry returns, he delivers the letter to Bruce, who obviously has not received a word from his parents since their death in this timeline. Bruce opens the letter to read it and fixates on his father's signature. Everything Batman has done was sparked by the death of his parents, and this letter and his father's signature understandably brings him to tears. It's not every day that we see the Bat cry. For this reason, this moment gets a high ranking on the sad moment list. Number 2. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, dies. Or maybe I do mean Tom Holland. To many at this point, he is the only option when it comes to someone who is trusted to play our Earth 616 Peter Parker. This death in the MCU was maybe the one that I have actually felt the hardest. And even though I knew it was most likely going to be temporary, it still made me weep. It also made me worry. Despite everything I knew, part of me was worried as to what if this became permanent. By the end of Infinity War, I was running through all the ways the Avengers could band together and fix this problem. Not because of the millions of others dead, but just because of Spider-Man. The youthful optimism Holland brings to Spider-Man, along with some of his character's blissful ignorance, is what makes this death so tragic. Before this moment, his character is so eager to help, so sure and determined of everything working out, and yet there is nothing that can be done as he feels himself fading right before his mentor's eyes. Worse still, there is nothing Tony can do, as he hears Peter plead that he doesn't want to go before turning to dust. Number 1. ELRIC brothers attempt transmutation. After the death of their mother, the young ELRIC brothers work hard to figure out how to bring her back. Using their knowledge of alchemy, they decide to perform a human transmutation in an attempt to bring her back. Unfortunately, they are not quite at the level to understand the toll that will be asked of them and the type of creature that it will lead to them creating. It leads to them bringing back what they interpret is an empty shell of their mother, a corpse-like mess of a creature, in exchange for all that they have already provided, plus Ed's leg and Al's entire body. Edward also sacrifices his arm in exchange for bonding Alphonse's spirit and soul to a set of armor. The two were rough before they attempted the transmutation, grieving the loss of their mother, and the sad ritual leaves them in an even more depressing spot. It's hard to watch the two young, optimistic boys have to deal with the repercussions of their actions. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope I didn't make you cry too much. There are so many sad moments within the realm of superheroes. When you're a hero, there is a lot that you end up having to sacrifice. When you're a hero, there's a lot that you end up having to sacrifice. An honorary moment that didn't make it on the list is the death of Uncle Ben in Sam Raimi's early 2000s Spider-Man. Man, that moment had me in tears when I was a kid. Were there any of your favorite super sad moments that I left out from comics, manga, or anything else superhero related? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're on your way down there, remember to cheer me up by clicking that like, tapping that sub, and ringing our bell. Till next time, this is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.